So let me just pin a comment to let people know what's going on. Post. I think I can pin that. Pin comment. Cool. Okay. Yeah, I think we're good to go. We're telling your followers that you're starting a live video.
What was it?
Super. We're good to go. Okay, cool. Hi everyone. Thank you for joining us. Oh, I'll try not to stand on the floor. It kind of shakes the camera. I am Amelia Caulfield. I'm here with Bernadette Kiley, and we're about to do kind of a Q&A, little conversation about Bernadette's new show, One Touch of Nature Makes the Whole World Kin, which was meant to be on show in Taylor Galleries and is now a virtual show. So it's online, available to see on taylorgalleries.ie from today, and that link is in your bio, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to have a look at all the works, the details of the show, the titles and the prices is all on taylorgalleries.ie, and that's in Bernadette's Instagram bio. So go have a look if you like. Another thing just to note is that there was a lovely article written by Aidan Dunn that was published on Tuesday in the Irish Times. That's available to see online as well, and that's about this new show. And then finally, Bernadette has recently relaunched her website. If you want to look at some previous works, some more details about this exhibition as well and previous exhibitions, that's bernadettekiley.ie. So, let me grab me a seat now. Hope you can see and hear okay. Someone would
tell us if you can't.
Yeah, maybe let me know if you can, if the sound is good. You might be able to hear some birds from the garden as well. Aren't you lucky? So just to begin, I have some information about the exhibition that I might just read out. So we're all on the same page about the show. And then we'll get into kind of an introduction, and then we have some questions planned as well. So, One Touch of Nature Makes the Whole World Kin. Currently an online exhibition by Bernadette Kiley, running until the 20th of June 2020. So sorry now if this makes you cringe, but I'm going
It's
to
alright. I'm cringing anyway.
Okay, excuse me. So the line, "One touch of nature makes the whole world kin," is taken from Ulysses' famous speech in William Shakespeare's play Troilus and Cressida. It is often used to refer to fellow feeling and comradeship in the face of calamitous events. Continuing with Bernadette Kiley's theme of mapping the changing landscape and the passage of time, the exhibition includes paintings depicting flooding on the River Nore and on the shore, and works referencing wildfires, a theme she first explored in the late 1990s. The exhibition also includes a series of small paintings made in response to her nightly walks around the deserted streets of Thomastown, County Kilkenny, where she lives, where we are now. And in these, the presence of absence is palpable. You can see some of them behind me.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. So, that's the show, and to give you a little background on Bernadette's life and work also, here's her little bio as well, as a little introduction. Let me see. Oh yeah, people are waving. Hi!
Hi.
That's fab. Okay. Again, a little intro, sorry to cringe you out. Here we go. Bernadette Kiley is an artist who works from her studio in Thomastown, Kilkenny, where we are now. She grew up in Carrick-on-Shore and graduated in graphic design communications from WIT College of Art and Design. She worked in graphic design in London and architecture in New York before becoming the first administrator of the Butler Gallery, Kilkenny. She also attended the Slade School of Fine Art in London, where she studied drawing. She has exhibited her work both nationally and internationally. Her most recent exhibitions were How Much Land Does a Man Need at the Source Arts Centre in Thurles, and Tell Me About Your Mother, featuring The Two Travellers, curated by independent curator Anya van Gosselin for Camera 8 in Wexford, and it subsequently toured to 3 other venues, including Tipperary Arts Centre, Clonmel. Bernadette was elected a member of Ace Donna. Am I boring you?
No.
Of Ace Donna.
Wind.
Of Ace Donna in 2007. That's your introduction.
That's my introduction. So I'm going to give you a little introduction about Amelia. This is Amelia Caulfield. She's a graduate of film and TV production at GTI Galway. She did a film and documentary degree at GMIT, also in Galway, and has just last week completed a year-long course in creativity and change at CIT in Cork. Her projects during this lockdown time are a print sale she devised and ran in aid of Alone and Focus Ireland, and the Maytree project here in Thomastown as part of her course at CIT. And she's been helping me during the lockdown to upskill myself technologically and setting me up on Zoom and stuff that I had never heard of. Amelia is my younger daughter.
The world is different now. Cool, thank you. I'm just gonna see, my eyesight is so bad, I need to keep coming off my stool. Okay, it looks good. I feel like it's working. I think it
I
is.
can't see anything even with my glasses.
You're better off.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have some questions prepared. If anyone has any comments, I'll try and maybe look at them later, but we have some that some very kind people sent in already. And so, just going to have a little convo. Again, if you have any comments, feel free to let us know your thoughts, and we'll try and check in with them in a while. So, we're kind of awkwardly facing forward. Let me try and face you a little bit.
I'm going to have some.
We have a coffee spillage, it's fine, I don't think you can see. A beverage break. Okay. I think I'd first like to ask about the title, One Touch of Nature Makes the Whole World Kin, how you came up with it, and how do you see it in terms of the contents of the show?
Okay, it was a sentence I came across probably 2.5, maybe 3 years ago, and in some reading or other I was doing, and I just noted it down in my notebook. Like a lot of pieces of writing, I tend to read and I take notes as I'm reading in notebooks, and I just keep them because I think it was a really interesting sentence. And while Shakespeare didn't really intended to be sort of fellow feeling, he was referring more to people who get kind of lost in the latest thing. I thought, wow, that sentence really almost mirrors my personal experience, or our personal experience, of living here on the quay in Thomastown, where we've had flooding so much, well, not this year so far.
Yeah, but I would generally say like once a year. I think it evens out.
Yeah, it does, yeah, and sometimes twice. And while it's a total disaster for people, obviously, and people's possessions and houses and people have been lost, I mean, it's horrific. Because we live here and there's not that many neighbours around, people all get together. They come together to help each other, and the boats are produced and sandbags are produced, tea, coffee, alcohol, pubs, you name it, and there's a kind of a comradeship and fellow feeling between people who are kind of having to suffer through these flooded times that is unique. I thought about it in those terms, that was really why I wrote down the sentence. And then when I was going to do this exhibition, I was thinking about how it would take shape, and I thought of that title a good few months ago, probably before the lockdown and before the pandemic. But because I had been exploring wildfires, which Amelia referred to there, I had explored kind of small burnings in fields just before the EU directive telling us all not to burn anymore. And so when the wildfires, and because of our global context these days, we can see everything online and in the news, and we all saw the devastating wildfires in California and in Australia. And because I have a brother living in outside Los Angeles, I was talking to him about them, and he said that they could see the smoke from these fires. And I thought, well, you know, anything could happen. So it was in my mind that it was something I wanted to revisit in that context. So that's the reason really for the title, and I had decided on it before, in a way.
Before you did these?
Yeah, before I did the window paintings. I'm going to call them window paintings even though they're not all. But I suppose the title became more settled in my mind once the pandemic started, or the virus. It's like, oh my God, yet another thing. So I thought, and then as time continued, the fellow feeling became more pronounced, more and more and more pronounced.
Definitely, even online, but in communities as well, we've seen so much kindness and people willing to help others, and community during difficult times. So has the lockdown had an impact on your practice? If so, how?
It has on my practice, not in my day-to-day living that much, because as an artist I work on my own, so I'm pretty much on my own a lot of the time, and a lot of nights I'd be on my own as well. So but in terms of what it has happened is I made these paintings, and if the pandemic hadn't happened and we were in lockdown, or I probably would not have made those paintings. In fact, there's a 99% chance I wouldn't have been drawn to that, at least not now.
And just to reference again Aidan's article that was in the Irish Times on Tuesday, he mentioned some of your earlier work using loads of different materials like wax and wood and wire, and I want to know about the change in your process since that phase, how you've gotten to the kind of nearly translucent paint style that you have now, and what that means.
Well, as Aidan said, I think in that article, it was almost an apprenticeship, and that's how I saw it really. It was like I spent the first 10 years learning how to paint and manipulating all that viscous material around the place and finding out what you could do with it, and it was the thicker the better, just because I could. You know?
Impasto, is that it?
Well, yes, I wouldn't even go as far as calling it impasto. It was just playing in the dirt, pretty much. And then I was making paintings about subject matter that was related to the land and landscape, and some of the paintings I made were about mud and tractor tires in mud, and really seriously waterlogged fields where the mud was very present, and the water was sitting in these trenches, so to speak, that had been ploughed, and it wasn't going to be there for very long, the water, but it left these ridges, and sometimes they were in fields that had straw in them and hay. So when I took photographs of these images, which I would have, there was straw everywhere, and hay everywhere, and lumps of mud and lumps of water. So it was just a technical challenge in a way as to how to make a painting about this stuff. And rather than meticulously paint each little bit of hay or figure out how to actually paint hay, because I didn't know how, or I thought it's an impossibility. I saw a rope, I think, in the corner, and it was frayed. I just thought, that might work. So I got it, and I just started cutting bits of the straw rope, and I dropped it into the paint. And I'm just thinking of one particular painting, which was well, it wasn't the bog, but it was landscape related to that, where it was seemed to be so jet black that and textures that I couldn't make a black enough. So again, it was a like, what am I going to do? And I saw my charcoal sitting there, so I thought, right, charcoal, that's black, ground, came from the earth, burnt, blah blah. So I got my scalpel and started shaving it. So I shaved it and down onto the canvas, and it became embedded in the paint. And I just kind of got carried away with it really, and lumps of it fell off, and I had to pick some out. But so how would I describe it? It was like it was a case of necessity, you know. And I'll just talk about one more. I was making these series to do with paintings, actually, the burnings in the fields, and I don't know where I got the canvas, but I had a series of canvases that were the same size, and then there was one that was smaller. I was like, where did that come from? Or how did that happen? So I thought, right, it's an opportunity to do something with it. So this sounds really ridiculous, but I saw a 2x1 piece of stick in the corner, and I thought, yeah, maybe I could use that. So I just cut it, and I hammered it on, and I probably smoothed it a little. And it became part of the painting that somehow balanced what I was doing on the canvas. So those are the reasons really. It's to do with the subject. It's to do with what I was painting. And so then you mentioned the translucent thing. Yeah. So that's to do with the subject, which once I was making paintings about water in the fields, and I'm surrounded by water, and had already made paintings to do with the river, but more activity on the river, like the mill wheel, for example. I think the first painting I did was the wheel churning the water around. So it was like, I'm not just going to make paintings about the river for the sake of it, but somehow the water in the fields brought me into the river. So I was able then to start making paintings that related to the river, but weren't just pictures of the river. And the paint was, again, to do with the subject matter, because you're looking at water. It's not mud, it's not thick, it's not straw, it's not a gate. So how am I going to make this actually look, and more kind of important to me, almost feel like water? So you water it down. So I did that with the white spirit, and I started pouring it. I think I tried to squirt it first, and that just made a mess, and then I just started pouring it and just see what would happen. And gradually I could see that it was picking up little bits of paint. And now sometimes it pooled and fell into it, and I had to prop it up and put planks and cardboard and everything underneath the canvas to try and get it level. But
and I suppose that's the same for like fog and smoke, that are both kind of lighter and airier than a big muddy field.
Well, they're ephemeral subjects, and so is water, obviously, and they're all made of water. Well, smoke, not so much, no, but fog and mist, they're derivatives of water. So, yeah. Is that answering?
Yeah.
Anything?
It's an interesting journey, isn't it?
Sorry for going on so much.
Sure, look, that's why we're here. Go on all you want. Another thing that was mentioned in the article in the Irish Times was the subject of the architecture of the windows. I think Aidan said that they fit seamlessly into your previous work. And we're wondering if that's how you see it, or if you agree with that, into your previous work.
Well, they do look quite different. And when I decided to make them first, I thought they will probably not fit in. And I started to think about them as maybe a little series that I'm just doing for myself because of the lockdown. And but the more I did them, and the more I actually felt that yes, of course, they're part of it. I'm just doing what I normally do, except I'm just turned around this way instead of that way, which is something I often do. And so I do agree. I have to say, I do agree with that. Even though they look different on the surface, they're pretty much the same topic.
Very good. And Maria asked a very interesting question that got us all in a heated debate earlier.
I had a massive row.
And she said, with news channels and social media saturated with images of isolation, how can painting respond to it? We couldn't come up with an answer without having a row. We were like, the media is one, the image is another, isolation's another, painting's another. How do we go about it? Yeah. So just how can painting respond? Well, I said so much that I kind of wore myself out and thought, how can painting respond? And I still really haven't come up with anything that could be termed definitive, you know. Sorry to interrupt, but we did think about painting in the global and then painting in the personal. That's two different things. Well, we did, yeah. So I gave Amelia and her sister Natalia a lecture on, you know, contemporary art in the world, and then I gave them another lecture about what I was doing. So none of it seemed to work. So it's a good question. Yeah. And I do think painting does have a uniqueness, and I'm not even allowed to say that other art forms don't, because it's too definite. Of course they do. Every art form has a unique ability to express what they're expressing. But I think the painting, it's something to do with time. I haven't figured it out. It's something to do with maybe the time that it takes to make a painting. Now I know you can go out and you can, you know, knock up a painting really quickly, but to make a painting, from my experience, or just purely what I'm doing, which has depth or feeling, you know, it takes ages. It takes me ages. It takes me as long to do a small one as it does to do a big piece. But I feel that the time is something to do with it, and also the sheer physicality of the material, so that you're in control completely of what you're doing. I was trying to talk about photography today, whereas now, I mean, you're dependent on an image, you know, and that is in fact something I have to give a little bit more thought to, because I have seen photographs that don't seem to be dependent on anything. And paintings too, but there's always a subject. I mean, it could be internal, you know, it doesn't have to be external. But I think painting does have an ability, because of whoever is making it, to draw attention to something that possibly other people don't see it in the same way. And that's as far as I've got with that at the moment. We're going to keep working on it. Other people can explain it a lot better than I can. It's really interesting. We had a very long discussion about the different directions that we could go in with that question, and it brought us some... Thanks, Maria, if you're there. Yeah, it brought us some interesting places, so thanks. We have another question sent in by Ramon Kassam, and he was speaking about, he said, I love it when new times can give new meaning to past work. And looking back, isolation is a theme that has always been dominant in your work. So his question is, I'm wondering, does any of this shift how you read or reflect on past works? Do these new times shift the energy of past paintings, even shift them through time? For instance, are they more relevant to you now than when they were painted? Right,
that's a very good question. It's kind of a tough question as well, and I don't know if they're particularly relevant to me because I did them and that's it, and that's what I was looking at the time, and that's what the painting was of, and it's from my observation of what I see. So these ones that I've done now are of the now time. So I don't think it shifts my perception of them personally, because I'm just moving on to, I'm thinking about what I'm going to do next. But from an audience point of view, or somebody who's looking at it, what do you call it, the viewer?
The viewer.
It might have, but I don't kind of think those thoughts really. I can stand back objectively and look at them and think about it, and maybe just feel kind of the same way as I always felt. Well, nothing new here, that's the way the world is. It's out of our control, and it's always out of our control, even though we think it is. Anything can happen at any time, and because we live right next to a river, it's very obvious how things can change really quickly. So, to answer Ramona's question, that's something I think I really don't think it has changed my personal perception of them. It might in the future, but at this moment in time, it doesn't. But thanks for the question, because it's really making me think.
I was actually reading in what's his name, Jerry Saltz?
Oh, Jerry Saltz, yeah, the New York art critic,
yeah,
who's just written that book.
It's How to Be an Artist, and the little bit that I read today was about the viewer making the art, and I think, like referencing his question, somebody could come in here with like any history or past or thoughts or anything going on in their own life and see something totally different. So wouldn't it be interesting to look at all of your past work from like a curatorial perspective and see if you could curate something with new meaning, different to its original intention?
It could be, yes. That's what, yeah, it's like, I've heard of what the viewer completes the picture painting without somebody looking at it, and also the viewer brings their own meaning or whatever, just their viewership to a piece. And I just thought of something about completing it, but yeah, there's a big question, isn't it? Does it exist if nobody sees it?
If a
So not
tree
philosophical.
falls in the woods.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what to say, does a bear shit in the woods? That's a different thing
Keep
altogether.
it clean, Amelia.
Sorry, family show. And the final question I have here is, if you could narrow it down to a couple of people who have been your greatest influences to date on your art practice.
Eek. Well, I'm going to narrow it down. Narrow it down.
I mean, we have
Yeah.
all night.
Okay, no. Yeah, okay, yeah. Barry Cook, who lived in this house and built the studio that I've had the pleasure of working in for the last 25 years. And Bob Dylan, I'm going to say.
Oh, reference.
I've got the t-shirt. Yeah, probably Bob Dylan. But there's other artists. I mean, there's loads of artists, so I couldn't really. It's hard to narrow them down. Immediately, someone comes to mind, or two men who come to mind are Mondrian, Pete Mondrian, and Marcel Duchamp, which might seem odd in the context that I'm making paintings, but his thinking and ideas and his original painting and then his gradual experimentation and everything is endlessly fascinating. And I think Marlene Dumas is definitely an inspiration from a painting point of view and purely the way she goes about things. I really like her.
Happy we got a woman in there.
Oh yeah, we have to. Yeah.
So that's kind of like in terms of influence on you or inspiration. But just gonna throw in a random question. Whose work are you really enjoying at the moment? Like any interesting up and coming or any new discoveries that you've made of new artists to share a bit of love?
Yeah. Well, immediately I can think of a younger artist whose work I really like, and she happens to be from Kilkenny. And her name is Kathy Tynan. And I remember seeing her work, and I remember the painting I saw of hers, and it just really struck me as just raw and also of place and her life. And she's gone on to do paintings that are, from other places, not just Kilkenny, and they could be anywhere really, but I probably decided this is Kilkenny. And
bringing your own view.
Bringing my own view to it. But she really, I find her work really interesting. The way she kind of hones in, or just close-ups of even activities. Her dog is often present in the paintings, and there's an atmosphere of her in this space with her dog and looking intently at something, whatever happens to take her attention. They're beautifully made and they're pretty colourful. I really like them.
Did she show the mill?
I don't think so.
Oh,
No.
That's amazing. Nice to share a little when we can. I'm gonna have a little check on our comments. Oh, cool. Okay. People seem to be conscious. Still there.
Is somebody conscious?
Hope so. Just about. That's kind of it, everyone. Thank you all so much again for joining us at the official opening of the new show, One Touch of Nature Makes the Whole World Kin. Again, just to remind you, all the information about the show is available on taylorgalleries.ie. The link is in Bernadette's Instagram bio, so you can go and have a little gander at that. Again, all the show info, the titles of the works and the prices, all available there until June the 20th. Also, just to say that BernadetteKiley.ie, if you feel like browsing some previous works, go and have a look at the old new website. Let Bernie know what you think. A labour of love, but it looks really, really nice, so it's lovely to have a catalogue of all the previous work. That's kind of it. Anything to add?
Thank you, my dear.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amelia. And Amelia has been absolutely wonderful throughout this lockdown. And we had no idea how this was going to go, because we would have been at Taylor Galleries in Dublin tonight, having the usual opening. So it's a whole new experience, and it has its merits.
Yeah.
I quite like it. Yeah. I don't get quite as nervous as if I have to go to my own opening. So thank you, Amelia, and thank you everybody for watching the live preview that Amelia did last night, and thank you for even watching. And that's it.
That's it. Yes, we're very lucky to be able to put this on in this way.
Yeah,
in
it's
this
amazing.
circumstance, so
it's absolutely amazing.
And to have the space and the time and the resources to do it. So
Totally.
we're very privileged and very lucky, and it's made all worthwhile when people have actually seen it and engaged with it. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and end this video and save it. Hopefully it works.
Okay.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay.
Have a lovely evening. End now.